Hello and welcome to another Luthier's Quick Tips. Today I'm going to be reviewing these. These are the new compact Z files from Stewmac. And what prompted me to do this was last week I had posted up a video where I asked the question, is Stewmac charging too much for their tools? Are they overpriced? And the reason I did that video was because the morning that I shot the video, I got an email from Stewmac promoting these new files. And when I saw it, I thought, oh man, I gotta try these out, because years ago, Stewmac had introduced a line of files called the Z files. And these are pretty much a traditional looking fret crowning file, much like these old style toothed files. The difference is the shape of the filing surface and the type of grit that's used. Instead of teeth carved into the metal, it's diamonds, which allow you to cut back and forth in both directions, and it produces a less severe tool marks that you would normally get with regular toothed files. The only thing I didn't like about those files was they have a handle sort of like this one has here, extending off the back of the file. And I've always had problems when filing frets over the body, no matter what direction I'm going at it. I have to really move around the guitar a lot and be careful about my angle or risk hitting the body with the file itself. And I had thought, you know, what I could do is buy one of those Z files and then just cut off the handle with a hacksaw, and then I would have just a smaller file that I could use on these upper frets. Well, as it turns out, apparently other folks had the same idea. They've expressed that to Stewmac, and so now they've introduced these much more compact fret crowning files, Z files. And they come in two different grits, 150 and 300, and more about that in a minute. They also have different profiles. The ones that I purchased are the centered V-groove. And these, according to Stewmac, are really designed for taller new frets. They also offer what they describe as the original, which is an offset V, which works better for lower, wider frets. You know, typically what you'd find on an older instrument that may have had a couple of different fret levelings in its history, and you're getting to the point where it's getting more difficult to crown it. So that profile works really well for that. So I purchased the center profile in both 150 and 300 grit. Now, these are fairly expensive files, so some of you are going to say, well, really, I can only afford one. Which is the best one to get, the 150 or the 300? It really depends, I think, on the kind of fret material that you're working with. I use both stainless steel and nickel silver. Now, I think the 150 grit works great with the stainless steel. It allows you to get that crown without excessive amount of work. The 300 grit works great on nickel silver, and you'll get the crown quickly, but the advantage of the 300 is you're not going to leave such severe scratches that can take a lot of work to polish out. So if all you do is nickel silver, all you need really is the 300. And if you're going to be doing some stainless steel as well, you're going to want to pick up the 150 as well. I mean, the 300 would work, but you're going to be at it for a lot longer. And especially with stainless steel, I would be concerned that using the file for a really long period of time will result in some excessive wear to the file, which means it would have to be replaced sooner. So I got both of them. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you in close here and let you see how this file grinds away the sides of the fret to create a nice crown. Now, when these files came in the mail, I just assumed I could take them out of the box and just immediately start crowning the frets on this neck. And that's what I attempted to do. But I quickly began to discover that there are some idiosyncrasies with these files, especially the centered version. Now, I can't really speak about the original version with the offset V. This one is the centered one. And when I was looking at the files, I noticed that one side appears to be for wide frets, and then the other side appears to be for narrow frets. Well, when I first started, I didn't realize that. It's not mentioned, I don't think, on any of the literature on their website. But I started filing with that narrow side, and what that did was it cut little fine ledges on the sides of the fret right at both ends. And I also noticed that rather than having that rounded half dome shape that we so desire in our recrowned frets, this was more of like a pyramid with a flatter top. That's where that leveled surface is getting narrower as you crown the fret. So what I did was I moved on to another fret and tried a slightly different approach. I started by using the edge that's for the wide frets, and I just started to work it, hogging out as much of the material as possible and watching that top surface, which I highlighted with a Sharpie, get thinner and thinner. And I just kept going until I had reached a point where it didn't seem like it was going to get any thinner. Then I flipped it over and used the side for the narrow frets. And that made that top surface get even thinner, while at the same time kind of forming more of that half round shape that we want. Now, I suppose if you look at it with a, like a loupe, a magnifying loupe, you'll notice that it's kind of faceted. That's okay, because then what I did was I sanded off the tool marks, the scratches left by the 150 grit, and then proceeded with polishing the fret. And when it was done, it was a perfectly rounded half dome crown shape. So that's what I was after in the first place. And I had actually contacted Stewmac to see if I could exchange these centered files for the original one that has the offset V. But I've since decided, no, it's just a matter of starting with the wide side and then finishing with the narrow side, and you'll get that perfect crown. Okay, so what do I think about these new Stewmac Compact Z files? Well, if you've watched my channel, you'll know that in the past I've always advocated for the use of a 3-corner file when crowning frets. I can have a great deal of control and I can get a perfect crown every time. However, it is not necessarily the ideal approach for the novice guitar builder or guitar player who wants to recrown their freshly leveled frets. It takes quite a bit of experience to master the use of a 3-corner file. All you have to do as you're filing is go a little too far over the top with the flat surface, and you're going to grind a low spot into your fret, which is going to spoil your fret leveling efforts. And trust me, that's pretty easy to do, especially if you've never used one of these 3-corner files before. It's just not something that I would recommend for the novice. In fact, I suggest to people, if they want to use a 3-corner file for crowning, get an old neck, a cheap one off of eBay, and practice on those frets to get a feel for it before you actually commit to your instrument. However, with these Stewmac Compact Z files, getting a perfect crown is almost automatic. You really don't have to put any thought into it. You just put the tool down and go to work at it, and then watch as that top flat surface that where you've leveled it gets narrower and narrower to the point where it's narrow enough that you can proceed with your sanding and polishing to bring up the final shine on the frets. At that point, you've got a perfect fret. And it just doesn't take that much work to do it. Plus, since these are diamond, they work really fast and they'll cut quickly. I do, as I said before, recommend the 300 for the nickel silver and the 150 for the stainless steel. But one thing I did with this particular neck, this one has stainless steel frets, is I did the initial crowning with the 150. That's where I hogged off most of the material to get the shape where I wanted it. Then I went back in and just lightly went over it with the 300 grit to reduce those 150 scratches to the 300 scratches, which is going to make it a lot easier to polish them up later on. So in the end, I think I can definitely recommend these files. Now, bear in mind, I used the centered version. I didn't use the original version, which has the offset V, so I really can't speak to how well that would perform, but if they perform anywhere near as good as these ones did, the centered ones, I think you'd be pretty happy. And as I said before, they come in a 150 grit, which is great for stainless steel, 300, which is great for nickel silver. But with stainless steel, you can start with the 150 and then finish with the 300. And that way it's easier to sand out the tool marks and polish it up later on. However, if you can only afford one of these files, and let's face it, they are kind of expensive, I would definitely go for the centered 300 grit. You can pretty much do all your crowning with this. Just know that with stainless steel, it's going to take a little bit more elbow grease. Now, in the past, I've used other diamond abrasive files before, and it's always been kind of a hit and miss. Some of them are pretty well made, dependable, and last a long time. Others just fall apart right away. But I can tell with these, just looking at them and having tested them out, the abrasives that they used on this are top of the line, and it is very durable, and I'm confident that this file is going to last a long time. So I don't think you have to be too concerned about whether or not the diamond abrasives will hold up for any length of time. And it is a Stewmac product, which means it is going to be more expensive, but there's a reason for that. It's going to be high quality. It's going to last a long time. If they're going to put their name on it, they have to do that. So hopefully this video has been useful. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you don't subscribe and like videos on building guitars, hit that subscribe button, click the bell for notifications, and don't forget, go into your YouTube settings and accept notifications, otherwise you won't get them. And then if you would like to help support this channel and leave me a tip, then head over to eguitarappliance.com, purchase a plan for guitar tools or guitars that you can build. And even if you don't build them, just know that you're helping to support this channel. At any rate, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.